Do we propagate exactly what we don't want to be perceived as? Does this apply to you? And if you don't want to be perceived as old, don't do this.
Did you push record?
Thank you so much for joining us today on Second Act TV. I'm so happy to welcome back the creator and host of Disrupt Retirement, Nick Lituanio. Nick, how are you?
My last name. Nice job. Perfect job, Zilka.
Oh, well, I love it. Ever since we did our first interviews and we've been on some podcasts together, and I know people struggle with your name, and I just want to laugh and just go, Letwanio. It took me a while to get that too.
I'm used to it. It's okay. It's really great.
Well, Nick, as I just said, is the creator and host of Disrupt Retirement. We will link to his wonderful channel. And that's what we want to talk about today is this whole, how retirement is perceived, how us old people are perceived. And this is stuff that you cover a lot to not play into what is being labeled as old age. And we were just talking off camera. I said, one of my favorite commercials that I look forward to seeing is the Progressive, the Dr. Rick, the parental life coach, about how you become your parents, and that got me thinking, to age that up a little bit, what do we do? Or, do we propagate exactly what we don't want to be perceived as? And we ran across a great article that I that I shared with you about some examples, and that's what I want to talk about today. Does this apply to you? And if you don't want to be perceived as old, don't do this.
It's funny. I think there is so much power around this kind of thing. I want to have fun with it, with you, because it deserves a little bit of being made fun of. And at the same time, falling into these stereotypes, falling into these habits can make us feel not the way that we want to feel. I love my parents and who they were and everything that they did for me. But I don't want to shake my fist at traffic like my dad did and be like, oh, there's too much damn traffic now. That's not the modeling that I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what this made me laugh so much. And again, this is a bit tongue in cheek, but some, I don't know. How much is this, does this really apply? And the first one that got me, I just laughed out loud, LOL, leaving voicemails. And I have to laugh because my nephew gets on me all the time. And basically they said that young people, what they can't understand, why we leave voicemails. Does that apply to you?
I totally leave voicemails. And what happens with me is I leave them because it's an old habit. And then I'm so well trained, I think, from my business career that I leave my phone number as well. Like they don't have it in their phone, right? But I do it. And I'm professional and I speak clearly and I leave my phone number. And halfway through, usually I'm like, oh, yeah, they're probably never going to listen to this. So I fall into that trap.
So if you're still in the workplace, you're dealing with ageism, maybe, don't leave voice. I can't, I don't even return calls if there's not voicemails. They figure maybe they butt dialed me or it's not important. So yeah, definitely. I totally can identify with this. The other, this is funny, taking photos of people and things besides yourself.
I don't even know how to respond to that. I mean, I have a mirror. I don't need to see myself. I don't take selfies and post them online unless I'm with my kids. It's just not something that occurs to me. And yeah, I guess that makes me old, or Silka, it just makes me not so damn self-absorbed. Maybe that's what it makes me. And the really funny thing about this is with my daughters, there's no excitement about getting photos back. They have perfected how they look on camera. So every photo that we take with them, there's a certain look that happens, and it's the same in every darn photograph.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, exactly. I love this one. It's so true. Being obsessive about the weather. Oh my God, my sister, that's my sister. She has to watch, and she'll talk about the weather constantly. I didn't realize that that's equated with old age.
All right, I'm totally guilty of this one too. And this, for me, living in California where we have droughts and wildfires, it kind of took on an additional bit of weight, I suppose, for me. But I totally nerd out on the National Weather Service and I read the forecast discussion. And my wife comes to me and says, well, what's the weather going to be like? Because she pretty much figures I'm going to know. I don't always know, but I have a pretty good idea.
Well, you when you texted me about which ones, because there's 40 of these. I'm going to link to the article so you can read it, and just it's a fun article, and it does get you to think a little bit, like we said. But one of them was, and you said your wife had this, and I didn't pick this one, is wearing large sunglasses or large glasses. I don't get that.
I don't want my wife and her sister and some friends, and it may have to do, ladies, forgive me, with maybe some crow's feet issues, or maybe they're, hiding a little bit behind them, because my wife's not old enough to be a Jackie Onassis fan. For those who remember Jackie O,
Yeah.
Mrs. Kennedy, she used to wear those big glasses, right? That was a look. But my wife has always worn them. Pretty much it's her look from when she was younger, and so she still does kind of sport the big sunglass look. You not so much?
No, I know I didn't, which is so. But apparently, young people think that we're old. That makes us old. So be aware of that. The and I love this one. This is so true. We're still using Facebook. If you if you use Facebook. Okay, so I got on Facebook 10 years ago, loved it, still on it, and it's actually the only social media I'm active on.
I have mixed feelings about Facebook. I have mixed feelings about social media. I think that, I do use Facebook and I'm on there from time to time, but raising kids in, this generation and seeing the effects of being connected to those damn phones all the time. I guess that's an old guy talking, those damn phones. But seeing that, I look and I go, well, man. And so many of these social media things have kind of swayed away from what they originally were. So, yeah, but I still use it, I have to admit.
Yeah. So I guess if you want to be cool and you're around either your kids or you don't want to, again, be perceived old, just talk about your TikTok account. I think that makes you really cool.
Well, I guess does make me old, right? Because, I do use Facebook, and then I thought I was really cool and hip, and I started to use Instagram. Well, I guess, that's not cool either. It's all about the TikTok now. And then there was this thing called Snapchat, which
Oh
was
yeah, that's
another,
already gone, I think.
right? That's come and gone. So I guess I just have trouble keeping up.
Yeah, me. Okay, here, this is, I think we both are here, and certainly with Paul, my boyfriend, getting up early when you don't have to. Young people just can't understand that.
Honestly, I don't understand that. I wish that I could sleep till 11 o'clock some days and catch up on sleep. And I just can't. So that's one of them that I think is absolutely spot on true. And I don't know. I wake up and I'm like, all right, I could lay in bed and do nothing, or I can start my day.
Yeah.
And 99 out of 100 times, I'm getting up and starting my day.
Yeah, well, it's funny because when the kids, Paul has kids like 30, late 20s, 30s, and we're always up by the time they get up. Well, one son still lives there, but by the time he's up, we've ran, we hit golf balls, we did this because God, why do you get up so early?
So another sign of being old that's not on our list, that's calling people who are 20 and 30 years old kids.
Oh,
which we both do, I think.
Good point. Well, they are kids. By golly, they are kids. This is funny too. This so applies to us. Watching movies from another century. Apparently, you don't want to talk about that around young kids.
I'm going to call BS on that one because that's like, well, don't look at paintings from 100 years ago, or don't look at, listen to music from X amount of time ago. Movies are art. And a good movie really is kind of timeless. So I'm calling BS on that one. I think if you're not looking at movies from the past, you're missing out on some great stuff. I mean, the AFI's list of top 100 films, I think number one is Citizen Kane, and I think number two is The Godfather. And those were both certainly made in the last century.
Yeah.
So there. So there, you whippersnapper.
Obviously, I agree with you. I hear all the time, I can't believe you guys are watching a black and white movie. So apparently it makes us old, but I totally agree with you, and that's okay.
It's okay with me too. Good.
Yeah, this is funny too. Getting a booth at the restaurant.
What is up with that? I don't understand that one. I'm not getting booths, and maybe it's because I don't go to a lot of restaurants with booths. Is it still a thing?
I have to admit that the last few times I either went with my girlfriends to lunch or dinner, or not with Paul because we always sit at the bar, but with other couples, it's, would you like a booth? I swear to God, the last few, if we went with another couple, let's ask for a booth. So that's why it made me laugh when I saw this. So apparently that makes us look very old. Don't do that around young people. I know you had a few other ones that I didn't pick. Which ones did you pick?
Which ones did I pick? Let's see. Having a landline. Okay. We finally got rid of our landline, and we almost didn't get rid of it because my grandmother, my daughter's great grandmother's, that was the only person who ever called that line. And she would leave voicemails. And she passed a few years ago, but we still had all these voicemails. So we ended up recording them to keep them because they were so sweet. But we finally did get rid of the landline, and we finally cut the cord. So those are two things that we did that maybe, are going to add a few years to my life. I don't know.
Yeah, I finally cut the cord too about a few years back, but that makes us. I agree. That makes you old. That makes you old. Any others?
Yeah, and here's one I want to know what you think about. All right, voting. Somehow, if you vote, it makes you old. That's a problem in my book. What do you think about that?
I saw that too, and that's a whole other issue. That just makes you stupid if you don't vote. And I don't know if that makes me sound old.
Or informed or smart or like you care about your democracy. I mean, that's one where it's like, okay, if that's where we're headed, then, maybe it's not a discussion for this lighthearted bit, hey? How about ignoring the latest trends?
It just depends what they are. I'm not going to get a tattoo or a nose ring.
No, but you're going to stay current in your wardrobe and your food and other things, aren't you?
Yes.
Right? I think, there is a component for you and I and most of us around aging that you do have to be aware of social trends. You do have to be up to date, because if you're not, and that doesn't mean you're going to wear skinny jeans, at 65. All right. That's not the point. It's more like to be active and engaged in society, to be part of the conversation. Don't you kind of need to know what's going on and stay up with the trends? So I would say, I'm going to stay up with the trends, because if I don't, I think it may make me feel a little bit old.
I think you're right. I think you are right. When I think of trends, I do think of the young, it's like maybe we've aged out of it, but you're right. If we don't understand it, then we are perceived as old. That's important.
It is, and I think that goes hand in hand with kind of what we were talking a little bit, before with, look, we may not be on TikTok, but we're both aware that TikTok is a thing, and we're both aware of what that media is. And so being up to date with society, what's going on, I think is really important. And I would kind of, technology is another one. Like, it's not on the list, but when you fall behind in technology, does that make you old?
Yeah.
And I would say, yeah, it kind of does, because you're going to be kind of minimized from what's happening, in society if you're not up to date with your technology.
Yeah. Well, we talk about this forever, and I want to ask our viewers, what are some of your, not pet peeves, but what do you do? What makes, if we have young people watching, which we have a chunk that do, what makes us look old? I'd love to see that in the comments. I know that go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say the one that we always laugh about is, all of a sudden in our house, 70's not old. My wife says, well, he's only 70. And I'm like, that's 7/8 of the way to the finish line. You're old and it's okay to be old. But that thing where it's like, well, I don't consider myself old. I don't know. You just have to look at the statistics and, I've run most of the race. I still have a good clip left. But I can kind of see how, my daughter looks at me and says, well, yeah, Dad, you're kind of old.
Yeah. That's a great point. And let's finish on that because I had a great interview with an author a few weeks back. The book is, hopefully I'll say it right, it's Who Do You Want to Be When You Grow Old? And it's all about growing old, meaning you keep growing, you don't get old. I'll link to it. It's a great read. Nick, thank you for just having fun with me on this. Again, it's a little tongue in cheek, but I think it's important to think about it. Are we propagating the stereotypes that we want to escape?
I think it is absolutely, fun to play along with you. And there is just a little bit of seriousness because I think the more that we fall into these traps, the more that we don't kind of push against the boundaries, the more that we don't disrupt retirement, the more likely it is we're going to go down a path that maybe is not the path that we're thinking we want to travel. So, yeah. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I love having you on. We always have fun. Of course, I will link to your channel, and I look forward to another discussion with you soon on Second Act TV. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right here. And if there's a topic that you'd like to have us cover, please visit our website, secondact.tv. There's a little red suggestion box in the upper right-hand corner of our site. Just click on that, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.